"You saved me, I'll never leave you again," said the badly injured farmer in the field. Rafik woke up before sunrise as he always did. The soft orange light was just touching the fields, and the air was fresh with the smell of wet soil. Every morning he felt a quiet happiness as he looked over the land that had been in his family for generations. The fields were not large, but they had always provided enough for him, his wife, and his 2 children. Even though the work was hard, Rafik loved it. There was something peaceful about the rhythm of planting, watering, and caring for the crops. He stepped out of his small home, careful not to wake anyone else, and stretched his tired muscles. His body ached from the long hours he spent working, but he ignored it. The work had to be done. He picked up his worn-out hoe and headed to the fields. The morning air was cool, and a gentle breeze made the leaves rustle softly. Birds were singing in the distance, and for a moment, Rafik paused to enjoy the calm of the early day. As he walked through the narrow paths between his crops, he noticed that some of the plants were drooping. The previous day had been sunny, and he had watered them, but the heat was strong, and some of the smaller plants were struggling. Rafik bent down, gently touching the leaves, whispering to them as if his words could encourage them to grow stronger. "Don't worry, little ones, I'll take care of you," he said softly. He took his small watering can and went row by row, making sure each plant received enough water. After watering, he moved to check on his small herd of goats. They were bleating softly, waiting for their breakfast. Rafik gave them fresh hay and a little water. He smiled as one of the goats nudged him, happy and playful. Moments like this made him forget the fatigue in his body. He loved his animals almost as much as he loved his fields. Each one had its personality, and Rafik could tell them apart by their sounds and movements. By mid-morning, the sun was higher, and the air was warming quickly. Rafik wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the work ahead. There were still many tasks: trimming, weeding, and repairing a small fence that had started to fall. He knew it would take hours, but he never minded. This was the life he had chosen, and he felt proud of it. Every seed he planted was a promise of life, a hope for the future. As he moved toward the far side of the field, he remembered that a part of the land near the old canal had been eroding. He needed to check it carefully before it became a bigger problem. The canal had been useful for watering the crops, but it could also be dangerous if someone slipped near its edges. Rafik had always been careful, but today he was so focused on the plants that he did not notice how the ground under his feet had become slippery with mud from the morning dew. Suddenly, his foot slipped. He grabbed at the nearest stalk for support, but it was not strong enough. He lost his balance and fell awkwardly. Pain shot through his leg, and he realized he could not stand up immediately. Panic started to creep in, not because he was afraid of pain, but because he was alone in that part of the field. No one was nearby to help, and the canal water was just a few steps away. He tried to call out, but his voice was weak, and the distance made it hard for anyone to hear. Rafik lay there for a moment, taking deep breaths to calm himself. He reminded himself to stay calm. He had faced many challenges before, but this was different. He needed help. He tried to move his legs, but the pain made it impossible. He felt a wave of helplessness, a feeling that he rarely experienced in his life. Usually, he was strong, capable, and independent. Now he felt small and vulnerable. Just as he began to worry, he heard a voice in the distance. It was faint at first, but then it became clearer. Someone was calling out, "Rafik, are you there?" The voice belonged to Imran, a neighbor who often helped others in the village. Imran was walking along the path near the canal, checking his own fields, when he noticed something unusual. He saw a movement near Rafik's crops and rushed over, sensing that something was wrong. When Imran reached him, he saw Rafik lying on the ground, his face pale and his eyes filled with pain. Without hesitation, Imran knelt beside him. "Don't worry, Rafik, I'm here. You'll be okay," he said firmly, trying to keep his voice calm to reassure his friend. Rafik tried to speak, but his throat was dry and the words barely came out. Imran gently supported him, helping him sit upright. Rafik felt a mixture of relief and shame. Relief that help had arrived, and shame that he had been in such a vulnerable position. Imran looked around carefully. He knew that Rafik could not walk on his own, and the path back to the village was uneven. He decided to lift Rafik carefully, placing him on his shoulders like a makeshift carry. Rafik felt the strain of the effort, but he trusted Imran completely. He knew that without him, he would still be lying in the field, alone and helpless. The trust and friendship between them were strong, and in that moment it became even stronger. As Imran carried him, Rafik looked at the fields around him. Everything seemed familiar, but now it felt different. The beauty of the morning was still there, the birds, the breeze, and the gentle sunlight, but it was mixed with fear and gratitude. He realized how fragile life could be, how quickly a normal day could turn into a dangerous one. His heart beat faster, not just from pain, but from awareness that he had been saved from a serious accident. They moved slowly, carefully avoiding the mud and uneven ground. Imran spoke softly to Rafik, distracting him from the pain. They talked about the crops, the weather, and the village news. Even in the middle of fear and uncertainty, these small conversations gave Rafik comfort. He felt human connection and care, something more important than any medicine. When they finally reached the edge of the village, people noticed them and came running. Villagers brought water, blankets, and helped carry Rafik to a small clinic nearby. The doctor examined him and said he was lucky. The injury could have been worse if help had not arrived quickly. Rafik felt gratitude welling up inside him, mixed with tears he could not hold back. He realized that life had given him a second chance. That evening, as Rafik lay on the cot in the clinic, he thought about the day. The morning had started so peacefully, full of routine and hope, but it had turned into a frightening test of his strength and faith. Yet it also showed him the goodness of people, the courage of Imran, and the power of friendship. Rafik knew that he would never forget this day. As he looked at Imran, who sat beside him quietly, Rafik whispered with a weak but heartfelt voice, "Thank you, I don't know what I would have done without you." Imran smiled and squeezed his hand. "You're my friend, Rafik. I will always be there for you," he said. In that simple moment, a bond deeper than words was formed, one that would guide them through the challenges of life ahead. The day ended quietly, but Rafik's mind was full of reflection. He understood now that life was not just about hard work and crops. It was about people, trust, and helping each other when needed. The field he had loved all his life now reminded him not only of labor but of life's delicate balance. And the presence of Imran reminded him that even in danger, human kindness could make all the difference. Rafik woke to the quiet hum of the clinic. The soft light through the window highlighted the dust particles floating in the air, and for a moment he felt a sense of calm. But the pain in his body reminded him of the accident, and reality quickly returned. His leg throbbed, and his muscles felt weak from lying down for so long. He tried to move, but every small shift made him wince. The doctor had told him to rest, but sitting still felt almost impossible for someone who was used to walking, working, and caring for the fields every day. Imran sat beside him, quietly keeping watch. He had refused to leave, knowing that Rafik needed support. The farmer looked at his friend with gratitude and a little embarrassment. "I'm sorry I caused all this trouble," Rafik whispered. Imran shook his head gently. "No trouble at all. Accidents happen. What matters is that you're safe now," he said. His calm voice brought a small sense of reassurance to Rafik, who realized how lucky he was to have someone so dependable. The doctor returned and explained that Rafik had a deep bruise and a twisted leg. There was no permanent damage, but he would need time to heal. "You must take it slow," the doctor advised. "One wrong step and you could hurt yourself again. Rest and let the body recover." Rafik nodded, knowing that it would be hard. He had always been a man of action, and the thought of sitting idle frustrated him. Yet he understood that patience was now the only way forward. The first few days were the hardest. Rafik felt frustrated as he watched the world continue outside while he could do nothing. His hands itched to touch the soil, to check on his crops, and to feed his animals. Every small task he had always done easily now felt impossible. But Imran stayed with him, talking to him, bringing small updates from the village and sharing stories to lift his spirits. He spoke about the festivals coming up, the children playing in the streets, and even about a goat that had gotten lost and returned home, much to everyone's relief. Despite the pain, Rafik tried to focus on the positive. He thought about his family waiting at home. He remembered his wife's kind words every morning, his children laughing as they ran through the field, and the smell of fresh bread from the small oven in their kitchen. These thoughts gave him strength. Each small memory reminded him that life was worth fighting for, and that one accident could not take away the love and support around him. Imran suggested small exercises to help Rafik regain strength. At first, it was only moving his toes and stretching his legs while lying down. Then, slowly, Rafik began to sit upright with support. Each small victory brought a sense of hope. He realized that healing was not just physical but also mental. He had to convince himself that he could return to the life he loved, even if it meant going step by step. The village played a huge role in his recovery. Neighbors came to check on him, bringing food, water, and encouraging words. Children ran errands, bringing fruits and flowers to lift his spirits. Even strangers offered support when they heard about the accident. This kindness touched Rafik deeply. He realized how important a community could be. It was not just about crops and fields, it was about people who cared for one another. Each gesture of help reminded him that he was not alone. During the second week, Rafik's mobility improved slightly. With Imran's careful guidance, he learned to walk a few steps with a stick. Each movement was painful, but each step was also a victory. Imran encouraged him, sometimes joking to make him smile. "Come on, Rafik, don't let that leg win over you. Show it who's stronger," he would say. Rafik laughed through the pain, feeling a renewed sense of determination. As he progressed, Rafik thought more about the accident and how quickly life could change. One moment he was tending to his crops, enjoying the morning sun, and the next, he was helpless and relying on someone else. It made him reflect deeply. He thought about the people who had been there for him and realized that sometimes accepting help was not a weakness but a strength. Imran's presence had been a lifeline, and Rafik promised himself that he would honor that kindness by being there for others whenever possible. During the recovery, Rafik also spent time learning from Imran. Imran had a way of seeing the world that was calm and thoughtful. He shared ideas about how to work smarter, not just harder. They discussed irrigation methods, planting strategies, and ways to protect crops from unpredictable weather. Rafik realized that even in misfortune, there was an opportunity to learn. He felt grateful not only for his life, but also for the chance to gain wisdom from his friend. Rafik's children visited him every day. They brought small gifts like hand-drawn pictures or flowers from the garden. Their laughter filled the small room, lightening the weight of his pain. He watched them with pride, realizing that even in hardship, love could bring joy. He promised himself that once he returned home fully, he would spend more time with them, appreciating every small moment that life offered. By the end of the third week, Rafik's leg had healed enough for him to walk short distances without help. The first steps outside the clinic felt strange. The wind on his face, the smell of earth, and the sounds of birds and children made him feel alive in a way he had not felt during his recovery. He took Imran's hand and smiled. "I think I can manage now," he said. Imran smiled back, proud of the progress. "You've done it, Rafik. You've come this far, just remember slow and steady," he advised. Walking through the village, Rafik felt a mix of emotions: relief, gratitude, and a newfound appreciation for life. People greeted him warmly, congratulating him on his recovery. Some joked that he had become famous for surviving such an accident. Rafik laughed quietly, but inside he knew that fame was not what mattered. What mattered was life, friendship, and community. The accident had changed Rafik's perspective. He understood the value of small acts of kindness and the importance of having someone to rely on. Imran had shown him bravery, not by fighting or confronting danger, but by simply being present, calm, and willing to help. It was a lesson Rafik would carry forever. Even as he returned to his fields, Rafik did so slowly. He touched the soil with new reverence, looking at each plant as a gift. The early morning sun no longer felt ordinary. It felt like a reminder of life's fragile beauty. He worked carefully, knowing that each movement had to be measured and mindful. The field that had once been just work now became a place of reflection, gratitude, and hope. Rafik also took the time to thank every villager who had helped him. He shared meals, offered help in return, and spoke words of appreciation. The accident had created stronger bonds, not only with Imran but with the entire community. Rafik realized that even in hardship, life had a way of teaching lessons about compassion, patience, and resilience. By the end of this period, Rafik had regained most of his strength. His steps were steadier, his back straighter, and his spirit brighter. Yet he knew he would never forget the days of helplessness, the fear he had felt, and the extraordinary kindness that had been shown to him. Every morning he looked at Imran and felt a surge of gratitude. Life had given him a second chance, and he was determined to live it fully, with awareness, care, and love. And in quiet moments, Rafik often whispered to himself, "I will never forget this. I will never forget Imran. I will never forget how life can change in a moment and how people can make the difference." These words became a promise, a guiding thought that would shape his actions in the days and years to come. Rafik had returned home, and the fields greeted him like old friends. The soil smelled rich and fresh, and the crops swayed gently in the breeze. It felt good to be back, but walking through the field reminded him of the accident. Every step had to be careful, yet he felt proud of himself. He had recovered enough to move freely, but he carried a new sense of caution. Life had taught him that strength was important, but so was awareness and patience. Imran stayed nearby, helping him when needed but also giving Rafik space. Their bond had grown stronger during the days of recovery. Rafik remembered how Imran had carried him, how he had never left his side, and how his presence had been a source of comfort. Now, seeing him work beside him in the field, Rafik felt gratitude that could not be put into words. "I will never forget this," he thought, smiling quietly. The mornings were now filled with both work and reflection. As Rafik tended to the crops, he would talk to Imran about everything: plans for the season, ways to improve irrigation, and even small stories from the village. Imran, in turn, shared his life experiences. He told Rafik about times he had faced difficulties, moments when he had helped others, and lessons he had learned along the way. Listening to these stories, Rafik realized that courage came in many forms. It was not only about heroic acts but also about showing care, kindness, and patience. Rafik's children often joined him in the field. At first they were cautious, afraid their father might get hurt again. But seeing him recover and walk confidently, their fear turned into joy. They helped him water the plants, pick small fruits, and feed the animals. Their laughter filled the air, and Rafik felt a happiness deeper than he had known in years. Every small moment became precious. He understood now that life was made up of these simple joys: the laughter of children, the growth of plants, the warmth of community, and the support of a true friend. One afternoon, while repairing a small fence that had been damaged by the wind, Rafik paused to rest. Sweat ran down his forehead, but he felt a lightness in his heart. He looked at Imran, who was arranging some tools, and said softly, "Imran, I don't know how I can ever repay you. You saved my life. You were there when I was helpless. I will never leave you alone, not in any situation." Imran smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile. "Rafik, friendship is not about repayment. It's about being there for each other. But your words, they mean a lot." Days turned into weeks, and Rafik grew stronger. His movements became smooth and confident again. He returned to almost all his daily tasks, but now with a new mindset. He moved carefully, planned his work better, and relied on the support of those around him. The accident had taught him the importance of teamwork. No matter how independent he had been, he now understood that accepting help was not a weakness. It was a strength, a way to survive, learn, and grow. The villagers noticed the change in Rafik as well. They admired not only his determination but also the bond he shared with Imran. People spoke of their friendship as an example of loyalty and care. Neighbors would smile as they saw the two men working together, often laughing, joking, or helping each other. Rafik realized that the accident had not only strengthened him, but had also inspired others to value friendship and community. Evenings became a time of reflection for Rafik. After the day's work, he would sit outside his home, watching the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the fields. He would think about the accident, about the fear he had felt, and about the gratitude that filled his heart now. He thought of the fragility of life, how quickly things could change, and how precious every moment was. These reflections gave him a sense of peace, even amidst the hard work of farming. Rafik also began to share stories with his children about what had happened. He told them not with fear, but with lessons. He spoke about courage, the importance of helping others, and the value of trust. He told them how Imran had been there when he was in need, and how small acts of kindness could change someone's life. The children listened carefully, learning about life in a way that went beyond school lessons. They began to understand the importance of care, compassion, and loyalty. Sometimes, Rafik and Imran would walk together to check the far edges of the field. During these walks, they talked about the future. They discussed ideas for planting new crops, improving irrigation systems, and even helping other villagers with advice or labor. Rafik felt a sense of purpose. The accident had reminded him that life could be fragile, but it also had given him clarity. He wanted to make every day meaningful, not just for himself, but for those around him. Rafik also discovered a new sense of patience. Before the accident, he had rushed through tasks, eager to finish work and move on to the next thing. Now he learned to slow down, to pay attention to details, and to appreciate the process. Every seed he planted, every leaf he watered, every animal he cared for became an act of mindfulness. He realized that life, much like farming, required patience, attention, and care. Quick results were not always the best results. One morning, while walking through the field, Rafik stopped and looked at a small sapling he had planted weeks ago. It had grown taller, stronger, and greener than he had expected. He smiled, remembering how fragile and small it had seemed at first. Life is like this, he thought. Even after hardship, growth is possible. Strength comes slowly, but it comes if you care and nurture it. He touched the leaves gently, feeling a connection not just to the plant but to life itself. Rafik's bond with Imran continued to grow. They shared stories, advice, and dreams. Rafik felt comfortable sharing his fears, his hopes, and his gratitude. Imran, in turn, shared wisdom from his own experiences. They laughed together, worked together, and supported each other. This friendship had become a source of strength that Rafik realized would last a lifetime. It was a bond that had been forged in adversity but now thrived in daily life. Over time, Rafik also began helping others in the village, inspired by the care he had received. He shared his knowledge of farming, offered hands to neighbors in need, and became a source of encouragement for those struggling. The accident had changed him. He understood now that life was not only about personal success, but about lifting others, being present, and sharing kindness. Every small act of help was a way of honoring the help he had received. Even during moments of rest, Rafik found lessons in life. Sitting outside in the evening, he would watch the stars appear one by one. He thought about the vastness of the world, the smallness of human life, and yet the power of connection. He realized that even one person's courage, like Imran's, could change the course of another person's life. He felt a deep sense of humility and respect for the people around him. One afternoon, after a long day of work, Rafik looked at Imran and said softly, "I think I understand now. Life is not just about working hard. It's about being present, caring for others, and appreciating what you have. I've learned so much, and it's because you were there for me." Imran nodded, smiling. "And you will continue to share that with others, Rafik. That's how life moves forward." Weeks passed, and Rafik's recovery was complete. He could move freely, work in the fields, and enjoy life with his family. But something had changed inside him. He had become more thoughtful, more compassionate, and more aware of the people around him. He had learned that life's value was not measured by success alone, but by the relationships, kindness, and care that filled each day. The accident was no longer a painful memory, but a lesson. Rafik looked at Imran one morning while they worked side by side, planting new seeds in the field, and said with heartfelt sincerity, "You saved me. I will never leave you alone, no matter what happens. I will always be there for you just like you were for me." Imran smiled, touched by the promise, and said simply, "And I will always be there for you, Rafik. Friends are for life, not just for moments of need." Rafik realized that his life had changed forever, not because of the accident, but because of the lessons it taught him. He had discovered the true meaning of friendship, the strength of community, and the importance of gratitude. He knew now that even the smallest acts of kindness, the simplest words of encouragement, and the quiet presence of a friend could make life brighter and more meaningful. And so, Rafik returned fully to his life, but with a new heart, a new perspective, and a lifelong bond that could never be broken. Every day as he worked the fields, he carried with him the memory of the accident, the lessons learned, and the promise he had made. To never leave the friend who had saved his life, and to live each day with care, kindness, and gratitude. The sun rose gently over the fields, casting a golden glow on the rows of crops. Rafik stepped outside, feeling the warmth on his face and the soft soil beneath his feet. He had returned fully to his daily life, but something inside him had changed forever. Every morning, he took a moment to breathe in the fresh air, to look at the plants growing, and to feel the steady rhythm of life. The accident had been a turning point, and now he lived with a new sense of gratitude and care. Imran was already waiting near the edge of the field, carrying a small bundle of tools for the day's work. Seeing him, Rafik felt a wave of warmth. Their friendship had grown deeper than words could describe. It was no longer just a bond formed in a moment of danger, but a lifelong connection built on trust, care, and shared experiences. Rafik approached him with a smile. "Let's start our day," he said, and they began working side by side as they had often done during the recovery. The days passed with steady routine, yet every day held small moments of joy. Rafik found himself noticing things he had taken for granted before: the laughter of children running through the village, the chirping of birds in the morning, and the way the wind moved through the tall crops. Each moment reminded him of life's fragility and beauty. He worked carefully but with a heart full of appreciation, savoring the rhythm of planting, watering, and tending to his fields. Rafik's family noticed the change in him too. His wife saw the gentleness in his movements and the care in his voice when he spoke to their children. His children noticed that he listened more attentively, laughed more easily, and shared stories about the day. Rafik had learned that life was not just about completing tasks or achieving goals. It was about the connections, the love, and the presence of those around him. Each day became a lesson in gratitude and mindfulness. One afternoon, as Rafik and Imran repaired a small fence at the edge of the field, Rafik paused and looked at his friend. "Imran," he said, "I cannot imagine what my life would have been without you. You were there when I needed help the most. I will never leave you alone, no matter what happens." Imran smiled, touched by the words. "Rafik, life is about standing together. Friends are not just for moments of need, they are for all moments. And we will face them together always." The villagers had also witnessed their friendship and were inspired by it. Stories of Rafik and Imran spread through the village, and many people admired the loyalty and care they shared. It became an example for everyone, showing that true friendship was built on trust, presence, and kindness. People would often greet them warmly, offer help when needed, and share small acts of kindness. Rafik realized that the accident had not only taught him lessons, but had also created a ripple effect of compassion in the community. Rafik began to help others as well, inspired by the care he had received. He shared knowledge about farming, helped neighbors with their fields, and offered encouragement to those struggling with their work. He found joy in seeing others succeed, and each small act of help reminded him of the kindness that had been shown to him. Life, he realized, was not just about personal survival but about making a difference in the lives of others. The seasons changed, and with them, the crops grew taller and stronger. Rafik worked tirelessly, but he moved with care, avoiding haste. The accident had taught him patience and awareness. He now understood that rushing through life could lead to mistakes and missed opportunities. Each seed he planted, each row he tended, and each animal he cared for became an act of mindfulness and love. His fields were not just sources of food and livelihood. They were a reflection of his growth, resilience, and gratitude. Evenings became a special time for reflection. Rafik would sit outside his home with his family, watching the sky turn orange and pink, and the stars slowly appear. He thought about the accident, about the fear he had felt, and about the gratitude that now filled his heart. Every challenge, every struggle had taught him lessons about resilience, care, and the importance of human connection. He shared these reflections with his children, teaching them that life's value was measured not only by success, but by the kindness, love, and presence shared with others. Imran remained a constant presence in Rafik's life. They worked together, laughed together, and supported each other in ways that words could not fully capture. Rafik realized that friendship was not just about shared moments of joy, but also about standing together in times of need and growth. The accident had created a bond that could not be broken, a promise of loyalty and care that would last a lifetime. One morning, Rafik and Imran walked to the far side of the field to check on a section that had been damaged by heavy rain. As they worked, Rafik reflected on how much he had learned. He had learned about patience, about resilience, about the importance of community, and about the strength found in kindness. He realized that even the smallest gestures, a helping hand, a kind word, or simply being present, could change someone's life forever. During these walks, Rafik and Imran also planned for the future. They discussed new crops to plant, ways to improve irrigation, and methods to help other villagers protect their fields. Rafik felt a sense of purpose beyond his own survival. He wanted to share the lessons he had learned, to help others grow stronger, and to ensure that the kindness he had received would continue to spread. Rafik's children often accompanied them, learning the value of hard work, care, and friendship. They listened to their father's stories about the accident and about Imran's bravery. But they also learned about hope, gratitude, and the beauty of helping others. The lessons were not just about farming but about life itself. Rafik realized that these moments were shaping the next generation to value kindness, loyalty, and compassion, qualities that would carry forward long after the crops had been harvested. As the harvest approached, Rafik felt a sense of pride and fulfillment. The crops were healthy, the fields were well tended, and the animals were thriving. But more than that, Rafik felt a deep sense of contentment. He had returned fully to his life, stronger in body and spirit, but he had also gained something far more valuable, an understanding of the importance of friendship, community, and gratitude. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rafik and Imran sat together on a small hill overlooking the fields. The sky was painted in shades of orange, pink, and purple. Rafik looked at his friend and said softly, "Imran, you saved my life, and I will never forget it. I will always be there for you just as you were there for me. Life has taught me many lessons, but this one is the most important." Imran smiled, placing a hand on Rafik's shoulder. "And I will always be there for you, my friend. We will face life together in every moment." The harvest was a celebration of not just the crops but of life itself. The villagers came together, sharing food, laughter, and stories. Rafik felt a deep connection to everyone around him. The accident had been a turning point, but it had also strengthened the bonds of the community. People shared their experiences, encouraged each other, and celebrated the resilience and kindness that had been shown. Rafik realized that life's true wealth was not measured in crops or money, but in the connections, care, and love shared with others. In the days that followed, Rafik continued to live with awareness and gratitude. He worked in the fields, cared for his family, and nurtured friendships. Every small task became meaningful, every act of kindness intentional. He had learned that life was precious and fragile, that challenges could teach the greatest lessons, and that true friendship could make life richer and brighter. Rafik often thought back to the day of the accident. It had been frightening and painful, yet it had led to growth, learning, and deep bonds. He no longer saw it as a moment of fear, but as a turning point that had shown him the value of human connection, care, and resilience. He had been given a second chance, and he intended to live it fully, with appreciation and love. And so, every morning as he stepped into the fields, Rafik carried with him a heart full of gratitude, a spirit strengthened by friendship, and a promise that had been made long ago. To never leave the friend who had saved his life, to cherish every moment and to live with kindness, care, and love. Life, he realized, was not just about survival. It was about connection, compassion, and the simple beauty of being present for those who mattered most.